Hey guys, and welcome to the Rule Thirds podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a movie that I've been excited for since literally it was announced many years ago. This is the movie about the future and how we see it. It's a movie also directed by one of my favorite directors ever. So we might as well just jump right into it. My name is Max.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Larry.
Let's go, guys. Hail Brad Bird. So, how are you guys doing today?
Doing quite well.
It's good. Memorial Day weekend. Just chilling.
I have Monday off from my internship, so.
Nice.
Oh, that's awesome, yeah.
I mean, that's not to say I'm not enjoying the internship. You know, it's a free day.
And how will you both be spending your Memorial Days?
Playing Oblivion.
Probably binging through Friends like I have been for the past, week.
Good. How far are you right now? I'm just curious.
I'm about to finish up on season 6.
Oh, dang! Wow. You went fast.
It's good, Larry. It's really good.
I know it's good. I've seen a few episodes. I am actually looking for another show to start binging.
And it's good. It's very it's kind of weird. It's contrived and cliched, but it hits where it counts, and I enjoy it.
But
if I come off as a bit more sarcastic today, it's because Chandler is rubbing off on me. Chandler Bing, one of the greatest characters in television history.
Everyone loves Chandler.
Wow, that's
Anyway,
that's a strong statement.
Can we just make the podcast about Friends? I mean, come on, let's do it.
I'll be there for you
when the rain starts to fall. I know the song. Shut up.
We'll just call this the one with the movie review.
The one with the movie review.
The one with Tomorrowland.
So, guys, before we get into the review, let's talk about the community and what the community had to say about our last time.
We got stuff quick. This was on the Mad Max Fury Road. I gotta say, guys, a little disappointed, audience, because the gloves came off.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
we were.
Oh my god, the gloves didn't just come off. They were
shots were fired every single chance. We didn't get too much of a response. Do you know Robert Summers, Max?
Robert Summers?
Yes.
The name does not ring a bell to me.
Okay, well, Larry?
No.
Okay, so just some guy commented on the Facebook post. I finally remembered to check Facebook, saying, I loved it. I don't know if he's referring to the podcast, in which case, I thank you, or the movie, in which case, stupid. That's mean. That's mean. I don't know why you'd love it, but whatever, to each his own. But then we have Whitley, reliable Whitley, saying, just FYI, Avatar was never praised for being amazing. False. It has an 84 on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, and on either scale, 84 is incredibly difficult to achieve. He says, I was doing some heavy Bill O'Reillying with my critics rant. I reject any comparison between me and Bill O'Reilly. On principle,
you see the difference between Sean and Bill O'Reilly is that Sean is well spoken and Bill O'Reilly
and respectable.
O'Reilly
but I
is
don't
not.
have my own cable news show, so get on that, TV executives. The Rural Third Show with your host Sean. I'd like that.
Oh,
you guys
wow!
want to jump the cable?
What are
that
we?
Decision now? Just
Rule Thirds with your host Sean Capdeville and those other two guys.
No one cares about them. You're like the correspondents on the Daily Show. You pop in, people laugh for half the bit, and then it gets old, and you just skip ahead on Hulu. You're those guys.
The show is called Sean Capdeville and the Capdevillettes.
Ooh, I like it. Let's keep that. Anyway, he said, as for the movie, I thought it was slightly smarter and faster, slightly smarter, Fast and Furious. Kudos on the message about the slave trade. I don't know what he's talking about. What is it, guys?
I've heard the movie does explore themes of trafficking and whatnot.
That is bad. Sorry, it doesn't say anything. This movie has nothing to say about anything.
Sure. All right. Continue, Sean. Continue. Let's wrap this up so we can.
And the commentary on the patriarchy. So I agree, and it's a dumb film. And so all these things, and then you're 7 out of 10. I don't get what you're talking about, Whitley. I strongly disagree. By the way, ignore the internet for the next month. Critics aside, people are loving this movie. I know. It upsets me every time I go on Twitter. And the flamethrower guy was Junkie XL. Who cares? No one cares. That guy is so overrated.
You mean Junkie XL was in the movie? The composer?
Yes, I guess.
Wow.
I don't care.
That's cool.
If I hear more about how amazing the flamethrower guitar guy was, I can't do anything, but I'll be upset. So stop. Because it's really
okay, so
boring.
let's talk about... Let's skip over that movie.
Community segment.
Yeah.
Sorry, some of the negativity has trickled over from last review into this one. But
yeah, okay, so it's kind of weird because Mad Max and Tomorrowland both came out in 2 different times when they're 2 different depictions of how we see the future, which I find interesting.
Yes.
So my question to you guys is, apart from what you think of Tomorrowland, what is your favorite depiction of the future? Do you guys have an answer to that? Because mine is the Disneyland version of Tomorrowland. It always has been for me.
Especially in this movie, that's up there. I really spoiler for just part of the review. Of course, it doesn't say anything about the movie as a whole, but I like their visual. Like, oh, here's the future. It looked really cool. But honestly, I might have to go with Star Trek, just because it is like super utopian. Except the adventures that our heroes go on to. But like whenever they go to like normal civilization, and all that, everything's just like perfect, and everyone's just kind of doing their thing. It's happy, and so yeah, I'd want to live in Star Trek if I could live in any future. Realistically, Star Wars would be cool, but there's wars and stuff, so I'd go to Star Trek.
Okay, well, I mean, there's a difference between saying, "Oh, what's your favorite depiction of the future?" and "Would you want to live there?"
Favorite depiction. Let's not go if you would live in the future.
One of my favorite depictions of the future is WALL-E. Because I like how I like the movie's completely, totally different designs between Earth and the ship, and I think it's interesting the messages it conveys between those two different areas and the plot. So, plus WALL-E's awesome; it's a great movie.
So, speaking of Disney films about the future, which leads me to the question that I asked, so Tomorrowland. It's the new movie coming out, directed by Brad Bird, who is responsible for directing the best Warner Brothers 2D animated movie ever made, the best Mission Impossible movie ever made, and the best Pixar movie ever made.
False.
Yes, Incredibles.
Up is better.
No, Incredibles
Up is better.
We will never, ever have this discussion, will we?
No, we will debate this. This sounds
You'll
like
never see eye to eye, won't you?
Incredibles 2 is his next project. I'm excited for it. It was also written by Damon Lindelof, who I believe is the showrunner for Lost and who wrote a lot of that stuff.
That's what I recognize the name. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it stars George Clooney, Brett Robertson, who's actually 25. I just found out 25. She looks the part, but she's 25. So before we get to our normal big discussion about the movie, we're going to give our thesis statements. Just basically like our general thoughts, a score, and then for all the people who had not seen the movie can go determine whether or not they go see the movie now or they stay through the discussion and don't care about spoilers. Because we were going to talk spoilers, and I don't know if Tomorrowland has that many big spoilers because a lot of the movie has been enshadowed by the cool trailers and whatnot. It hasn't exactly been like, it doesn't exactly have like huge plot twists that are just going to blow your mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially when this is a movie that's like a standalone one and not like not one that's built maybe on twists and stuff like Age of Ultron or something like that. So, that in mind, guys, Larry, tell me, what is your thesis on Tomorrowland?
All right. So the best way I can kind of describe Tomorrowland is it's like one of those like 1,000-piece puzzles that you get. Like, I think it's a good analogy because like what happens is you open up the box, right? And you get all these pieces and you're like, wow, this is a huge puzzle, man. It's going to be a lot of fun, piece all this stuff together. But you kind of find a hard place to start because you see there's so many different sections and you're like, well, you go at the sides, at the top, or the bottom, and eventually you start piecing it together and things are starting to work out. And then finally, towards the end, you manage to get most of the puzzle, and just a few more pieces you have to add in on the sides and those little spots, and then you have the full puzzle. But then you step back and you think to yourself, was it really worth spending those last 2 hours doing this puzzle? And so that's sort of my thoughts on Tomorrowland. I think the plot, it's very weirdly structured, and I don't know if I'm really on board with how they decided to build the world of Tomorrowland and how they decided to just tell the plot in general. But everything else is, in my opinion, is pretty top notch. I mean, the performances are great, comedy hits, even if the movie is a little silly when it's trying to be, not silly. And I think the cinematography and the camera work is gorgeous. That Tomorrowland is a beautiful, beautiful place, and I would love to be there. So I'm going to give Tomorrowland a 7.5 out of 10. I would definitely recommend going to see it if you ever get the chance.
Sean, what's your thought?
Honestly, I feel like Tomorrowland in a lot of ways reminded me of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie in its simplicity. It's, you go in for kind of the adventure. It is an adventure movie. And simple is the word I always came back to, because it is simple. And there's some confusion in the plot, like, didn't quite get to this or that, and that's, kind of a problem. It wasn't communicated. But, I don't know, it was fun. The characters were very good, especially George Clooney, which I can get into more detail later. The action was surprisingly, really well done for this type of movie. I was surprised how good the action was, like, some of the best for the, past few years. And, I don't know, there was a good heart to it, though it was a bit heavy-handed, and I couldn't help but enjoy it, even though, I don't know, something in the back of my mind says that there's something that could have been easily fixed that wasn't, that could have made it great, I will also give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Nice. Me and you, Sean.
Yeah.
On the same length.
Well.
I'm wondering about Max. I'm honestly curious because I can kind of see both sides. Like, again, there's something telling me that there's kind of a flaw that could have been just easily fixed and the movie would have been much better, and people might like get really on that. I don't know if Max was disappointed or if he's going to be like way more exuberant than us.
Well, that's why we're here, Sean. We're here to discuss that.
Go ahead, Max.
Take shelter.
So right now, I'm holding this little pin in my hands. It's the Tomorrowland pin that I found because I've been following this movie's production since pre-production because Brad Bird is one of my favorite directors, and I think this fits him so well. And yet, for a movie about positivity and optimism, this movie really bummed me out. It's underwhelming from all sides, with a strange plot structure, a really inconsequential narrative framing device, performances that are really kind of one note, with the exception of George Clooney at the end. Really, one note, one-dimensional set pieces, a lot of just kind of dwindling around on stuff, just having scenes that could have been easily edited out, no great performances, no action that really stuck out to me, a strange climax, and honestly, overall, I was very underwhelmed. I don't know if it's really that bad, but it really doesn't fire on all cylinders. I'll say the production design is excellent. Michael Giacchino does it again with a great score, and I absolutely love what it's trying to say. I think it's healthy and necessary for a growing America and global civilization. I think it's very important. I'm glad the movie got that message across to kids, but I kind of see the same flaws I saw in Maleficent with Tomorrowland somehow, and as a result, I don't want to say disappointed because I try not to be disappointed or expecting anything from movies, but my hopes were high for this one, I guess, whether I liked it or not, and I find myself giving it a 4.5 out of 10.
Oh my god, why?
Okay.
Okay.
You know, Max, the most ironic thing about all of this is that in the last episode, during the discussion, I mentioned that Max is always the one who tries to keep his expectations at a median level, never tries to overdo it.
I did keep my expectations.
But you failed.
But you failed. You were underwhelmed.
Well, no, the film was underwhelming. Like, whenever I tried to present something, it just kind of...
That's the same thing. You had expectations that were high, and it was underwhelming.
It wasn't met.
I'm really curious as to why.
Well, okay. Hold on. So, audience, you've heard our theses. I guess the score would be a 7.5 because it's two 7.5s and 4.5. So I guess that's the overall score? Is that right?
Hold on, wait.
Now Virginia would be at like...
hold on, let me do some math.
6.5, I don't know if the two.
What'd you give it a 4.5, Max?
Yeah.
Divide that by 3.
You're listening to live coverage of Larry typing on his calculator.
A 6.5 is the average.
Yep.
Which is decent.
Okay.
Which is pretty decent.
So that's 6.5. That means it's still solid. It's not bad. So we're saying... I mean, you should go see it based on your interest, not whether or not we validate it. But if you
stop doing that,
well, no, I know.
Yeah,
no,
me too.
We're not here to validate whether or not they like the movie.
I'm not ashamed to recommend movies, Max. Don't try to be like, do your thing. No, sorry. We're just gonna say what we think, and I think you should go see it. Again, it's nothing spectacular. It's not gonna blow you away, but it's very enjoyable. So go see it.
This is going to be a long one, guys.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's gonna be a long one.
So if you like the movie or you saw the movie, as if to say, please stay. And if you didn't like the movie, please stay and listen to us talk about it. Everybody else, go watch the movie. Or if you don't care about spoilers or just going in and just talking about the movie in great detail, cool. Okay, so where to begin? I guess we just start now.
Why are you so disappointed in this, man? I'm surprised.
I just want to say that I didn't really know what to expect with this movie because I didn't watch any of the trailers. I knew I was going to go see this because of the pedigree behind it, and I just didn't know. Apparently, the rest of the world is telling me that the trailers are very vague and they don't get the story.
Incredibly vague. Yeah,
which I like because hey, that's cool. I don't want the story, completely spelled out for me. That's nice.
It's good that they're vague, but it also tried to sell it as this big action movie thing.
Yeah.
It did not work. The second trailer just didn't work.
The teaser trailer I loved. I loved the teaser trailer.
Well, yeah, that was
the only
great.
one I saw.
The movie did this thing that Disney does every so often, where it posted all the backstory and lore of the movie in YouTube videos and short films, which was really weird. Why didn't you just incorporate that into the movie?
That's really strange.
Yeah,
the movie should stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah, that's the only
the movie's marketing
thing
should. Wait, this is getting confusing.
That's
the movie.
Yeah, that was the only thing that gave me an idea of what the world was like. in Tomorrowland. This one little animated short film that discussed the origins. And
Yeah.
I really wish I didn't see
I will say how it was presented was a bit weird in the movie, but I just, like, I didn't know, and though I guess, you know, I tried not to be disappointed. I failed. I should stop having these expectations true, but what I found so, I don't know, unappealing is really the screenplay and the pacing and how the narrative is framed, and it's like weird how it's kind of like 2 flashbacks and then it kind of goes to like a bunch of just like weird road trip scenes with like 2 action set pieces and Keys in this movie from Key and Peele apparently. And
yeah, I don't know why he was here.
Yeah, and did you guys notice, actually, on a side note, I liked all the little Easter eggs in that little shop with the Incredibles and the Iron Giant and Star Wars.
Little incredibly obvious Easter eggs.
Yeah, hey, the Iron Giant was in there, and that's awesome.
Stormtrooper
they really benefited from Disney owning Star Wars. They
seriously.
Good lord. I think they were going a little bit too far with, like, when the guy opened the door and, like, the Star Wars theme started playing. It was like, come on, guys. I saw the Rebel uniform. That's cool. We can move on. There's plenty of other cool Star Wars stuff that we can do.
Look, to address the plot thing, I was never bored in this movie. I think it does a good job of... I don't think the pacing's bad. I think it's a different type of pacing. That's what's funny. There was a friend of mine, when he liked Mad Max, and we were arguing about that through DMing through Twitter, and I said it has really bad pacing, right? Because I think it really does. And he said, just because it's different, that doesn't mean it's bad. And I said, true. You can have different pacing and have it not be bad. This is just bad. With Tomorrowland's case, I do think it's just different because it is kind of just it's a bit of a road trip movie. It's just a bit of a dialogue movie. It's the only way to describe it. It's just kind of scenes unfold, and there are a few action moments, and there's just kind of one clear objective the whole movie, but without too much, you know, jumping around or all that. It's following the same person or people outside of just the very beginning. You get a flashback, and I don't know. I don't think the pacing was bad. I think it was slower than usual, but I think overall, in terms of the story, it moved. I was never bored, but I can tell that it was slower. That's how I'll put it.
Yeah,
that's how we'll put it.
The flow was fine. I think, I was never like looking at my watch, like, when is this gonna move on? I think the issue is like, okay, first of all, to address the whole flashback thing, I don't know if I enjoyed that sequence when with George Clooney's character as a kid. I thought that was it had heart.
It was crucial. I mean,
it was crucial.
Okay. Actually, real quick, I want to ask. That wasn't Disneyland.
It was the New York. It was the New York.
Well,
what was it? The fair.
It was at the World's Fair.
Yeah, the World's Fair.
A lot of stuff there.
Yeah,
and that includes Small World, I guess. That was very strange.
Probably. Yeah, actually, I did a research paper on one of my Disney class, and they were at the World's Fair. It was a really big deal for Disney.
Oh,
that's when they unveiled their animatronics.
I recently read that there was actually supposed to be a bunch of footage of Walt Disney talking about the idea of Tomorrowland. That's the first thing that you guys should know is that Tomorrowland is not a commercial for Tomorrowland. It's not. It borrows the aesthetic and the idea of what the future could look like. It's not based on a Disneyland attraction. It's based on the idea that came from a Disneyland.
It's like Pirates of the Caribbean.
I thought it was based on the attraction.
It had nothing to do with the ride, and if it made you want to go on the ride, great. It's a great ride. But I mean, like, it was its own plot with its own characters. It was just taking the idea of kind of family-friendly kind of pirates. It's the same thing here. It's just taking the idea of the future in that kind of naive 70s, 60s kind of way, in a little bit. It's just borrowing it, like Max.
I thought it was based off the ride. All right, whatever.
Well, it's still cool. It's a part of Disneyland.
Well, I mean, like a park. It was based off the park tomorrow.
I wish there were those hovering swimming pool blocks.
Oh my god, that was so cool.
All right, I'll say this: I love the production design, how it's like realized. I love that.
Yeah, Tomorrowland is awesome. Like I mentioned, it is one of my favorites. Like visions of the future. I don't think it's number one. Maybe I need just more time to mull it over, but it's impressive. It's visually really awesome.
Kind of reminds you of Meet the Robinsons, if you guys remember that movie.
Yeah, that was
no one does.
Oh no, I liked it.
Was just Disney's kind of under the radar one.
I liked that movie.
I didn't even know it was Disney until like years after it came out.
Yeah. But anyway, just to conclude on this, the plot point. I think the main issue I have with it is that, like, the ending of the film, where we really get into the nitty gritty of what this whole thing has been building up to. I think it just feels like there's an extended Act 1 that we're just sort of sitting through.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it built well.
Well, I mean, wait, do you guys see a franchise coming out of this? Because I don't.
No.
And I don't think it was intended.
I hope
okay.
not,
Because
they
the
did a pretty
ending,
good
I
job
didn't like the ending
concealing.
that much, and it also
Why not?
because I don't know if it makes sense. So it's all context based. It's not like based on like pace. It's just a personal thing. I don't know.
No, that's a legitimate. If it, like that's the thing. Plot holes are kind of like they're excusable depending on the plot hole, but like if it's the ending, it's good to bring up because that makes the film more satisfying or not. So it's
So the ending is that all the they get all the kids to like bring all the cool people there, but how does that benefit the Earth that everybody knows? If the end of the world is projected at the world through video games and television and all that stuff like Hugh Laurie was talking about.
I honestly, that's actually one of my downsides. I was confused about a good chunk of the plot. Like, why was Tomorrowland bad all of a sudden?
Yeah, who was the enemy? Was it Tomorrowland or was it the governor or was that
all the smart people built Tomorrowland. I get that. But then they closed it all off? Right? Or did they just exile George Clooney?
Yeah, I know.
They exiled George Clooney, and then they exiled Athena, and then...
I think Athena ran, like, they were trying to decommission her, but she, like, her protocols
they were trying to like, disassemble her, and then she ran away.
To continue her, yeah.
This is an issue for me. I feel that, like, the film doesn't do such a good job world-building with Tomorrowland, and also just explaining some plot details, and I think that's because the narrative is framed in a very strange way where it doesn't give itself the time to do that. Because we're dealing with Casey's character and her family dynamic while also discovering Tomorrowland, but she's running away, and then we have Athena, and then we have Frank and Hugh Laurie's character, and I just really wish that the film could have just sat down and said, all right, here's what's up. Blah, 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 Tomorrowland, blah, 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 exile, blah, 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 blah.
Well, at the same time, I really wouldn't want that kind of huge exposition dump to just halt the plot. And
You know what? I need to address this because Max, you've been saying this stuff about exposition, and it's really bothering me.
But exposition, I don't like it.
No, I'm sorry. Exposition is not inherently a bad thing. Okay?
I guess not, but its delivery is very wishy-washy.
Hold on. Let me explain myself, okay? If a character is interesting and you like the character, and there's a visual representation added along to it, exposition is not a bad thing. It's not that bad if a character needs to explain something to another character, especially in an audience surrogate situation.
Well, couldn't you just show it through the visual medium of
You could have done that too, but they didn't do it.
I'd like to say, Max, that just last night I rewatched The World's End, and there's some exposition dump scenes. So
is there? I haven't seen that in a while. I should watch it again. But I mean, that's
no one is immune. It's a necessary thing because you have to deal with runtime. Like,
but the suggestion that a movie could be better if people just stopped and explained everything, I don't know if I agree with that.
Who says the movie is necessarily stopping?
Look. Okay, let me ask you guys some questions. Do you know why George Clooney's character was kicked out?
Because he invented that machine that was really kind of cynical and that it predicted that the world was going to end.
But they didn't know it was bad until the end of the movie.
No,
right?
they did. They kicked him out because he made that machine that could tell you when you died, like all these really cynical things, like the world's going to end. They kicked him out because he was bringing that into the positivity of Tomorrowland.
Yeah, and then they end up using that machine, but the thing is they use that machine to try fueling Earth into stopping.
But there was that antenna.
Yeah, and that was seen as a good
thing. It's from an alternate dimension, so it's like, how do you affect this?
Let me say this: why I am not too upset about being confused, though it is a negative, definitely. I would say that I got the emotional stakes going into the climax, and
I did too.
I loved the idea. It had a good message / the idea of we're okay with that tomorrow because it doesn't require anything of us today. Again, it's heavy-handed, it's preachy, but it is a PG adventure movie.
But it's so
Disney.
Smart.
It is a good message, but it's pretty heavy-handed.
Brilliant.
I mean, I'm sorry.
Okay, yes, okay. Yeah, I mean, it is it's like, hey, everybody, okay, we gotta stop. Hugh Laurie, you do your villain speech.
Exactly.
That's basically it. But it's a really good speech. I like it.
It is a good speech. It's just it feels like, I mean, when you really look at the message they were trying to give, it's kind of hard to think of a way that doesn't feel a little heavy-handed.
Yeah, and to be fair, the heavy-handed is actually, there's some cleverness, like you're saying, Max. Like, the whole anecdote about the two wolves. Right?
Yeah,
that kind of just flew in there.
No. I liked it a lot, and it was funny because she's like, there are two wolves, one in a constant battle. One represents dark, and the one represents the good. And I was like, oh boy, this payoff's going to be cheesy. And she's like, which one wins? The one you feed. And I'm like, oh snap, that's actually really good.
Yeah, I know, right? That's really clever.
My expectations were it to be lame, and it was not. So well done on that. And that kind of is the message of the film, which again is a good message, and that's huge in the climax because that's when the movie really like kicks in with its message.
Yeah.
So I liked its message, and I liked the idea behind it, even though it's heavy-handed. And I got the emotional stakes between the characters, especially Clooney and Athena's relationship at the end. That's why I'm okay with it being confusing. However,
see, the thing is, I want to just point out, I'm not faulting the movie because it made me confused. I was not confused by anything other than the ending. And then I just kind of like blew open a bunch of other questions that I had. That's not one of my faults of the movie. I'm not going to say, oh, it's confusing, that's why I don't like it. I just thought of it, and I just thought the ending was kind of weird because of that.
I think if plot's unclear, it's a negative.
That's not one of my big negatives. Like, just I want to point it. I just want to throw it out there.
All right,
it's so weird. I mean, because like the plot. I know we need to move on, but I think it's really hard for me to nail down exactly. Like Sean, you mentioned that it's hard to nail down exactly what my complaint is because it's just.
I can tell you what it is. Based on the discussion, I can tell you exactly what it is.
What?
His name is Damon Lindelof. You see, Damon. Okay, I'm not gonna do one of those things where I put Brad Bird in a little corner of happiness because he did some things I disagree with. And he also wrote the screenplay. But the thing is, what really bothers me at its core is what Damon Lindelof has brought in that it's a complicated story that does not set its own internal consistency. I'm not saying explain everything. I'm just saying, like, keep things simple while also having a big scope. It's like having all of this. It's like for those who are still confused, it's like having the first Avengers movie where they try to explain all that's going to happen in like the next 3 phases. It's like trying to contain all that into one thing. And as a result, it gets confusing and weird, and Damon Lindelof is just not good at complex stories because he makes them too convoluted. Again, not his fault to blame, but I would say that the reason that a lot of the problems with the plot and the screenplay and the dialogue comes from his input, because this does not sound like a Brad Bird script. It doesn't. He's worked on his own screenplays and turned them into great movies. It just does not feel like a Brad Bird project to me. But again, that's my own personal thing.
Well, I don't know what a Brad Bird project feels like. You know,
you do. You've seen all the movies he's done, right?
No, I've seen Incredibles and Ghost Protocol. Haven't seen Iron Giant or anything else.
Or Ratatouille?
Okay, yeah, Ratatouille.
Yeah.
But I don't
see Iron Giant? Well, anyway.
Because everyone keeps telling me to, so it's a rebellion to make them stop. It's a weird thing I do.
Wow. Oh, come on, Sean.
I do. Okay. Then people stop telling me to watch stuff, and I'll watch it. How about that? That's the deal. I would say to that, Max, I would disagree. And this kind of goes into characters, which is, I think, one of the strong points. I think it was well written from the character's standpoint. I don't think... Yeah, I agree with you on the characters. Yeah, the only deep one is probably Clooney. He had a really good character. But... Clooney was good. And
okay,
look,
Clooney was good like the last third.
No,
I don't know. Like, he just came off as like discount Harrison Ford, cynical guy.
Oh no, I totally disagree. Harrison Ford is much gruffer, and no. I think it was risky for them to cast. Look, Clooney is always really smooth, and he's Ocean's 11 is like his the perfect role for him, right? Danny Ocean. He's supposed to be suave and charming and all that. It took guts to cast him in this, cynical, grumpy guy. And I think it worked. I think he pulled it off really well.
Yeah, I would say that he pulled it off. I just don't like how the character was so one-dimensionally cynical for that long.
I don't think he was. I think the fact that he, what's the main character's name? What's her name?
Frank. Wait, you mean Casey?
Yeah, Casey. I think the fact that he saw the percentage go down and kind of got a little bit of hope, and it showed that he wasn't completely gone, and his interactions with Athena really showed his past wounds really well. I think he had a good range of stuff to do during the movie emotionally. He was probably my favorite part, outside of the vision of the future.
Also, let's be real. He's seen Newton. Come on, really?
What you mean, Isaac Newton?
Yeah, you gotta be that subtle about it.
Well, I did kind of see that, but I didn't really mind it that much.
I get that's not a huge play. Just
I think,
come on, guys.
In my opinion, I think every actor in this movie has good presence. And like,
what
I mean by that
I do
is
like the little girl. What is her? I don't know the actor's name.
Athena.
I believe she was young Maleficent in Maleficent. I think. I think she has like the same eyes or something like that.
I don't know if they're exactly. You'd have to do research on that.
Oh, it wasn't her? Okay, well, she's good.
Right now, so.
And Britt Robertson is good, if not a little bit obnoxious with how her character is written.
Yeah, I will give that. She's a very likable protagonist, and she, she did a good job, kind of being the voice of what the movie's trying to get across in terms of the optimism and all that. But yeah, she was a little like in your face a little bit, especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
When she's off screen talking, it felt a little like dial it down a little. So I'll give you that. I think she was fine.
But it was a good performance. I think she was really into it, and all the actors in this movie really gave it their all to try to embody the characters they were given, and I think it works. Like Hugh Laurie, right? His character, I wouldn't say completely generic, but like he had, it's not a very complicated kind of character, but yet still, Hugh Laurie's just personality and his presence in the role just made me enjoy listening to him talk. So I really didn't have much complaints when it comes to the cast. I think they all did a pretty good job.
I suppose. And again, it's just very strange that Key was in this movie.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing.
That was really weird.
It threw me off.
That was fun. This is the kind of movie that he can pop in. Why not?
Yeah, I will say, I like how this movie was somewhat progressive, and how we had a female character as a lead who was not who was not kind of. She was just very much neutral. Gender neutral. She wasn't pushing her girliness or whatever that, it's so evil. It's just she's just a really smart kid. And then the same goes for the little girl who I liked, the irony of her being able to kick some butt while also, being this cutesy little girl with these adorable little eyes. And
she just wrecked Key.
Mm-hmm. And I do, and I do like how there's a little, there's a mixed race couple in there. And it's all very progressive, and I like how that's part of, this is going to sound evil when I say it, the Disney agenda. But, I appreciate that, But,
Disney pushing the liberal agenda.
Yeah, let's see. What's next? Should we talk about action next? Is that...
Yeah, action. Let's move on to action.
So,
I liked it.
Tough.
I don't get it. I honestly, the fight scene in the gift shop was awesome.
Oh, yeah, that was cool. I like that.
Yeah, I guess that was cool. I like the one in the house
Frank's
a little bit
house was cool. This was surprisingly well done action. And Athena was, seriously awesome. She was just jumping around, nailing people to the ground. That was a cool character, and that's when I realized, robot. Yeah. I could buy that, there's some time travel stuff.
Okay, I didn't see the robot thing, actually. I didn't see that coming at first.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, I was...
As soon as she was super awesome at combat, I'm like, yep, a robot.
Robot. I think...
Because time travel could be a thing, but you can't be that old and be that good at fighting.
Yeah, unless you're that kid time from Daredevil. Movie. I don't know.
Oh my goodness. Sorry. That kid, the young Matt in Daredevil, he's insanely good at martial arts. He scares me. Anyway, continue.
I think that something that Brad Bird really excels in is just creativity when it comes to things like technology and powers and stuff. And this movie just oh my god, all the technology in Frank's house and all the little traps, it's so clever. I'm just this is really where Brad Bird shines.
And I liked how it was violent in terms of the visual stimulation. This was some really intense visually, in terms of the camera just whipping around and people.
Yeah, there was a lot of long takes. I believe that commercial or that thing that she goes to when she's in the little train. I believe that's all one take. Not mistaken.
I don't think so.
I think all until she's in the lagoon. She finds out she's in the water. I think that's.
Anyway, what I was saying was that this is surprisingly violent, not in the bloody, gory sense, but just in terms of people being thrown around, lots of explosions, especially the explosions. Yeah. This is really violent for a PG movie.
Explosions.
Yeah, man. I would say so. Yeah.
Let me say this. I wouldn't call it violent, but there's a lot of action, very action-y action. It's intense action for a PG, and I appreciated that.
But there's less. I feel that part of it has less weight because they're all robots. So honestly, it's sort of just
I've become a huge fan of the aesthetic of blowing up robots. It started with Age of Ultron, and then it followed here. The shot, it was in the trailer, so I saw it before the movie. But when George Clooney, Frank, hits the laser wires across the doorway, and the two robots walk through and just fall to pieces, that's really cool. It's just visually cool to destroy robots. Same goes with the
I love y'all. They know how to do it.
Just last night, World's End was. I really like that
movie
action
is
this
so
time.
good.
Yeah,
I
it's cool to see them tear apart robots. So I would say it's not that big a deal.
Oh, well,
Also,
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it also is convenient in that it doesn't. You're not killing actual people. You're killing evil robots.
Disney does that. Any family thing does that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, think about just Pirates of the Caribbean. Again, I'll bring it back. They're undead. You can stab them, shoot them, and they're fine.
Nothing.
Mm-hmm. The thing that bothers me about the action is that it all feels very one note, very
really
action.
I
things,
disagree,
excitement. It just doesn't have that much weight to it.
I love that you bring that up because that was literally my reaction to the Mad Max action.
Okay, great. Disclaimer:
right?
I have not seen Mad Max Fury Road yet, and I plan to, and I'm just reeling in from all these disses that these guys are making. Which
you're referencing the CinemaSins, right?
Yeah.
Excitement, things happening.
Yeah.
That was Mad Max for me. Not the same here. I think it was better, much better.
I mean, this is tough because I don't think the film is bad. I think it's just very bleh, it just and I think the action just kind of serves as a
10.
Tomorrowland is
we should create a new scale with just sounds.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a 10.
Yeah,
it's the 10, and then it's the 0.
It's a how you doing at 10.
No.
I think there's a scene in the Eiffel Tower which I think that's a nice little thing, even if it does that whole cliche of rewriting history for the sake of the movie's narrative.
I like that.
I mean, I don't dislike that. It occurred to me, but
I wish they would have gone into more detail. I wish they would have had a scene where they were all interacting as opposed to just.
So what they say is that those 4 guys created Tomorrowland.
No, they
were part of it. It was Edison, Tesla, Verne, and Eiffel. And
by the
they
way,
all
just
came together.
while we're talking about the concept, did anybody else get a feeling that was familiar to them when they heard about the a place where all the artists and all the scientists could all go to this place, and then they go and it's a dystopian place, and the person in charge of it is actually kind of crazy and immortal? BioShock, anybody?
I don't know.
I don't know. I just
BioShock. There was a disease or something, right? That made
it was no. It was just insanity.
Oh, okay.
I
don't like BioShock, so I didn't finish it.
Anyway, I just caught on to that. So I mean, that's my thing about the action. It's not bad. It just kind of feels go action, things go. And
I don't know.
I mean, it advances the plot, but it's not it's. I think that's the thing. I think that's maybe a better thesis. That things happen, but there's nothing exceptional or even that good. It's just happens and whatnot.
I disagree. I really like the Eiffel Tower scene.
Mm-hmm. I like it when they're going to the sky and stuff. That's so cool. I really enjoy that. And there's this one. Okay, can we go to the writing next? Because I think we're all agreeing that I don't like the action that much. You guys did. Can we move to the writing? Because I really want to talk about the writing.
Okay, I thought
we already
spiel.
did.
Yeah, you did.
Well, no. I want to talk about the dialogue and how things are delivered. That's what I want.
Okay, sure.
Even though you already did, we'll give you another pedestal.
Well, hey. I mean,
God.
Listen. Okay. This is where I'm going to put Brad Bird on a little corner that says he's not totally to blame for all this stuff. Maybe. I don't think Damon Lindelof thinks very highly of children in that same way that as Sean and I talked about in a podcast on Cinema Talk last summer, how kids are just kind of subjected to how adults kind of see kids like these little dumb little creatures that don't really understand how human beings talk and whatnot. And for the most part, maybe they don't entirely, but the screenplay kind of suffers from the same woes that I saw in Maleficent, where it was the lines were so and beat you over the head, and nothing was subtle about it. Now, what it was trying to say, I appreciate and enjoy and commend the movie so much for doing, but how it was delivered, there's one of my favorite lines in the movie, and I think maybe you took notice of this, Sean, is when Casey sees something cool, she starts saying it, and then George Clooney is like, why don't you stop talking about it, just be amazed? I enjoy what they were going for with that, even if I don't think they really followed it up all that much, maybe. But I don't know, the dialogue was really stiff. Really stiff.
I disagree. I feel okay. I don't have any lines that I don't know, this line's so quotable, or guys, what was your favorite line of the movie? So I can say that it wasn't an exceptionally well written screenplay. It wasn't. Nothing jumped out at me, but I think it was definitely a good screenplay. I got the idea of the characters and all that. I don't think it was stiff. Describe what you mean, because I agree it was a bit on the nose with its message.
Oh, definitely.
But also, that's part of the simplicity. That's, again, I'm just going to keep coming back to that because I think that's the best word to describe the movie. And that's not a shield against criticism, but it's kind of a context in which I understand it, which lets me kind of forgive some stuff, you know? So it's a very simple movie. But so Max, can you explain what exactly do you mean?
I think the best way to describe it is the opening, where it's like these two people are, which is, what is his name? What is his name? Frank. Yeah, Frank and Casey, like just kind of
Back and
like,
forth,
yeah, like, oh, I want to talk about, and like they keep going back to that.
Oh,
not
yeah,
only is it a really strange narrative device. What?
That I didn't like that scene. Then it got better.
Oh yeah. Like, not only is that narrative device, like framing device, just kind of like inconsequential
it was
and
unnecessary.
very unnecessary.
It was weird.
It's not funny either. Like,
it wasn't funny.
Like, I don't want to say just from personal experience it wasn't funny, but like the entire packed theater, nobody was laughing. The only time that people like actually laughed was when was "You're not funny." That was actually a really great line.
Yeah.
And then when like Casey kept hitting the bat on the robot a bunch of times, that was kind of troubling. But like just that whole scene felt so contrived. It's like, oh, these characters have to argue because they're two different characters. It's like and especially after all that stuff had happened, it made even less sense. And I think that's like what comes back to the screenplay entirely. Nothing was subtle. It was all just very much like, here's this. I think another problem I had was like how the characters were kind of written to all be like very smarmy, and there wasn't that much difference between them, especially in maybe it's intentional that Frank and Casey sound similar, especially when they're kids. Like Frank, he starts talking about like, I can't buy it when child actors start lecturing other people on like the greatness of life. It doesn't like sit well with me. Maybe
it's the trope of like, oh, only through a child's eyes, and it is overused.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I keep rambling, but just what I saw was the dialogue.
This is your movie to talk about. You're way more passionate than Larry and I. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, like what I saw was just like these really kind of ham-handed scenes of people like just like there's just some scenes in the car with people talking, and like most of it, and like some of it matters, but most of it is just like them talking. It just kind of feels like, and the conversation isn't even that like good.
I'm having trouble with this, Max, because I feel like these are like incredibly minor things. Like I'm okay with movies not having that much subtlety because, and well, yes,
I don't mind that either, except if when you're trying to like, except when you have a movie that's like so over the head about it, like with everything.
Let's think about this. This is a PG live-action Disney adventure flick. This is for kids, and not in the condescending throw flashy lights in front of the kids for 2 hours and mom and dad can get a nap. But it is for a younger audience. It is a message that is going to they're trying to push the next generation, not necessarily us. We're lost cause, let's be honest. It's kind of supposed to be that way. That's kind of the feel I got from the movie. I don't think it was going for subtlety, and I think that's okay. It's a minor note in that, yeah, you could have been a little more subtle, a little more unpacking. Kids probably would have gotten it just as well. But as is, it's the good message. It's delivered in a smart way, like you said yourself. But I think the lack of subtlety isn't that bad, honestly. And I'm okay with scenes of them just talking. And I think it was totally intentional that young Clooney and Casey sounded the same. I think totally intentional.
Okay, yeah, that I guess.
Also, I was confused because young George Clooney character looks identical to Casey's brother.
That is true. I noticed that too.
I was looking like, I know they're different, but I'm
pretty sure. Yeah, I'm also pretty sure that kid was also the same kid from Looper.
Yes,
sure.
he is.
Yeah,
he was.
So let's see. Do you guys have anything to say on the writing? Because I did not like the dialogue, and that's probably like, I really like dialogue. I like writing dialogue. I enjoy it a lot. So maybe that's just like a personal thing for me. I don't know. Did you guys have anything to say on the writing? Because I just kind of dominated this.
No, that's fine. Like I said, I didn't find it stiff. I think it worked well enough. But I will grant you, okay, let me try to think of like my favorite line. It might be "You're not funny."
That was a really good line. I thought it was like, oh god, we have to go through another like really personal moment. I thought he was going to kiss her at some point. I was like, oh god.
Weird.
I mean,
red flag.
But still.
Red flag.
Larry, do you have anything? Because I kind of already did my thing too.
I think one of the, besides for the narrative structuring and all the stuff I said in the beginning, one of the other issues I have is that I think sometimes the film just sorta is very silly. And I know it's for kids, and I get that. But, like, whenever the robot was, like, kicking people, and, like, when the little girl was kicking people in the face or punching, I couldn't help but, like, laugh. Because it's a funny image, you know.
I think it's supposed to be. I don't think it's supposed to be like
no, but it's not only
John
that.
McClane.
Yeah, but then you have the scene where like
with its RPG.
Yeah, but then you have the scenes of like the robots, the police robots who have that really annoying, you know, white teeth, smile that clearly, you know, is crossing the uncanny valley, you know? And the action scene is supposed to be like really intense, but like I can't stop laughing at the ridiculous face. It's like, you have 1 hour to comply, you know, smile, and you know they
that was
walk
supposed to be humorous.
I know, but I'm just like, but the action is happening, and I'm trying to be invested in the actual stakes that they raise, because there are a lot of stakes. You know, I feel for these characters, but some parts I just like, I don't know, maybe it was a line or two. It was during action, and I didn't feel like I was supposed to be laughing, and I was actually supposed to be like really invested in what was going on, but part of me just felt it was a little ridiculous. It wasn't too often, but it was enough that I noticed. As far as the writing, that is partially the writing, but as far as the actual like dialogue is concerned, I thought the actors had good chemistry. I liked how George Clooney. I liked how George Clooney bounced off of Athena and Casey, and how Casey bounced off of Athena.
George Clooney has some of the best charisma in the industry. Like, like he can probably get good chemistry with anybody.
George Clooney could have good chemistry,
but that's
George Clooney could have good chemistry with a rock. He could just be like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" And just
remake of Castaway with George Clooney. Probably do it too.
Yeah, I would see that. It's good. I think that I don't know if the script is anything overly intelligent. I think Hugh Laurie's little discussion at the end about, you know, with the antenna and
we will get to that in just a second.
Yeah, I think that was well written, and again, Hugh Laurie's just presence in that character made that role.
Yeah, I'm glad to see him.
I don't know. Yeah. It was definitely not the strongest aspect. I think we all agree the production design is clearly the best part about this movie. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Easy.
Okay, I think another great example of like what I'm talking about the writing, just real quick before we get to the other things, is Casey has this hat, this red hat that she got from her dad that says NASA on it. And like at a point in the movie, she's like, I have to go back for my hat. I have to. It's my dad's. I have to go get it. And she gets it. She comes back. Later on in the movie, she's in Tomorrowland. She loses the hat, and there's no consequence for it. She's not sad. It's just, it's gone. It's like, what about all that stuff about the hat? Where'd it go? Like, you know,
a little nitpicky.
I don't think so, because that's supposed to like speak to her character. That's supposed to be like, this is part of her thing with her dad. You know, she's got the opposite of daddy issues. Daddy benefits. I don't know. But like
mommy
I don't think that's
yeah. I don't know. Like I just noted that. Like why go so far with that whole hat thing when it's like, oh, there's no consequence to that anyway. Anyway, do you have any like additional comments? Because there's one more thing I want to talk about that I really like want to talk about the positives of this movie. Like the one thing this movie does so incredibly well.
All right, go for it.
Where did her mom?
Like any other things? Like the score was.
Oh my god, what?
I don't know. I just realized like the mom is never. She's brought up in the beginning, but yet she's never addressed afterwards. I don't know. Maybe they just kind of
because you can tell what happened. Like it's not like a thing that's important. I like how they didn't like point it out. Dead mother trope is becoming more and more like insanely used everywhere, and I'm starting to get really sick of it. But that's a whole other thing entirely.
Whatever.
I'll say the production design is absolutely wonderful. Sean and I have already agreed that because we're going to be in LA this summer, we're going to both go to Disneyland. And Sean, you're going to have to pull me away from Tomorrowland because I'm just going to buy all the things from the Tomorrowland movie. I will buy a hat, I'll buy a shirt, I'll buy all that stuff because I love the logo, I love how it's designed, I love all the production.
Get me a pin. I want a pin.
I will. I have a pin with me, and like it was really cheap. Yeah, I'll find you a pin, Larry. Score was really good. Michael Giacchino.
Oh my god, Michael.
Heck
Giacchino.
yes. Well, if you go back, you'll find a composer cast from Cinema Talk days. And there's what's Cinema Talk?
Nope, that was in the Rule Thirds days, buddy. It was only a few episodes ago.
Oh, okay. You'll find Rule Thirds podcast composer cast, and it's great. And you can find out all about why we like him there. Do you guys have any other thoughts? No. Just real quick.
Go do your thing.
Okay. I want to talk about this movie's theming, because I love this theme so much.
Theming.
I don't know if that's whatever. It's theme.
Or the theme of the movie,
and how
which is...
Yeah, okay, you know what, that's fair. Theming is probably the easiest way to say it.
I just want... Yeah, like, it's weird because as maybe I was a little bit, personally invested in this movie, regardless of how much I didn't want to be, but it kind of hit me on a personal level for a movie to be so much about how the triumph of positivity and optimism over cynicism is so very important to a growing civilization, especially in regards to how we see the future. In fact, if I were a lesser critic, which I most certainly am, I would say that you two like this movie because it kind of attacks the kind of stuff that Mad Max was showing in that movie, which is all about the future in a very bad light. How it's all about how, it's all bad, and and this is a great movie. However, as a lesser critic, I just wanted to point that out and actually don't stand by that.
It's definitely not that. But
Okay.
Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I just love what this movie's trying to say with the idea, with how you need to keep looking forward to the future. You need to keep hoping because because we're looking through all this post-apocalyptic stuff. We're seeing a world that's becoming less and less good because we're letting it give to us. We are feeding the wolf, as Sean pointed out. In fact, something I was talking to, it's funny because I was the only person in my group of friends back in college who believed in Tomorrowland, who thought this is going to be, who was excited or had high hopes, not expectations, for this movie. And what she pointed out, whatever, Sean, lecture me about it later. What my science fiction friend pointed out to me, and by science fiction friend I mean she writes science fiction, she loves it, is that Tomorrowland could have been better if it came out in 2008, which is a time of optimism in science fiction, instead of like a world with zombies and stuff like what we are in now. And I think it's good that it came out now because of what it's trying to say. I'm glad tons of children will see this and hope, and as the movie promotes intelligence and the success of those who are high-minded artistically and intelligently and in all sorts of things, I'm really glad, even if it beat us over the head, I'm glad it was trying to spread that message. I'm so glad. It's like, if you took that, I enjoy it so much. I don't like the story, I don't like a lot of things about the movie, but one thing that it does so well is what it's trying to say. And that's why I commend the guy, Brad Bird and Damon Lindelof, fine, for doing that, even if I don't necessarily agree with how they approach things. Do you guys like the theme? Because I just rambled on again.
I mean, it's got a good heart,
It's just so refreshing, isn't it? I don't know. You just don't see those many movies that are just like, we have to be positive and happy and stuff. It's like, it feels very Disney, and I like that. It's the good kind of Disney message.
I will say two things. One, I appreciate that they kind of gave a sly mention to the video games and movies thing, and they didn't go on a whole diatribe about, oh, look at all these examples of how terrible and how video games are ruining our children and things like that. That was very appreciated. Hate that. God, I hate that. The second thing is that I like to think of myself as a realist. I like to kind of be positive but ground myself in reality. So sometimes it kind of bothers me when I see movies that are just be positive and believe in yourself and
Well, it's not even like that. I think that's very childish, but I think this movie is trying to say is that being positive is good for your home and for your work.
Right.
It's good for you.
Yeah.
It's healthy.
Part of me, while I was watching this more, I'm like, oh, okay, be positive. But then I said, the movie is a little smarter than that. It's not just, be positive and, believe in the future. It's also, be positive because so many people are like that. And if you are that person, there needs to be the positivity. If we lived in a world with just pure
nihilism,
pessimism,
cynicism, all that stuff.
Yeah, if we just lived in a world full of that, we would just be miserable. So there has to be that person who is the positive one, to affect, to have the adverse effect. So
now, to be fair, to clarify, pessimism is like juvenile. It's oh man, everything's cynicism is the real evil here, where it's people who are looking for reasons to not look forward to humanity's destruction. It's basically that.
Brad Bird I said Brad Bird was best at production design and creativity when it comes to the small things, but another thing he's really good at is just having a good heart. Part of me really thinks that Brad Bird is just the nicest guy. If I was to have a conversation with him, I would really think he's the coolest dude. So that really comes off in a lot of his work, especially his Pixar work, Incredibles, Ratatouille, and here as well.
Yeah.
Done.
Cool. So, Sean, do you have any thoughts about the theme before we wrap this thing up?
No, I already said it. I liked it. It was a good message. It applied well, if a bit on the nose. But, yeah, it was basically just the two main characters disagreeing, and then it turned into kind of the Athena came in an interesting way, and then Hugh Laurie's character was also an interesting addition to the conversation. It built itself well through the characters, and even if the plot climax didn't make too much sense, I got that they were trying to resolve the thematic.
The Athena-matic?
Stop it. You killed it. I was going to make a point. You killed it. How do you feel about yourself?
Come on. There was a pause.
No.
Come on, Sean.
You murdered it. Murdered it.
Okay, fine.
Soiled it. Soiled it.
So yeah, let's wrap it
anyway.
up.
Yeah.
So that's all our comments on Tomorrowland. I'm not none of us are really changing our theses or anything like that. We're just right.
No.
Okay, cool. So we're just gonna move on. So I was 4.5, and you two were 7.5. So let's see. So I'll tell you this, Sean. I know you have a problem with how I react, like how I try and set myself up for not expectations, even if I may have them. I'll tell you this: when we review Inside Out in a few weeks, I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to go in there. And I'm going to make sure I have no expectations for that. I need to get back on this train.
But you do.
I will not. I promise you
You do
that.
right now.
But you do.
Right
you
now.
Do.
You know it's Pixar.
And you know it looks really, 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 really good.
You know you can pretend that you're fighting it. You're not.
They even
It's
used
a
more than a
stupid,
feeling in the
pretentious
trailers.
charade.
Shut up. Yeah. Oh, on a side note, I just wanted to point out something I found kind of cool is that the second Star Wars Force Awakens trailer came on right before my showing.
Yep. Same.
And,
same.
It does that
And-
in certain 2D Disney films, but in 3D, it appeared at Age of Ultron.
Yep.
Okay, I'll just say this. In that moment, even though I'm pretty sure people in the audience had seen it many times, there was a commotion. Right when the Lucasfilm thing came on, they heard that music.
Yep.
There was just a chill at the theater, which made me very excited for what I'm about to watch in December. I don't know. I guess you can't really get the true sense of a trailer unless you watch it in the theater. Anyway, that's just a little thought I had. Next week, I don't know.
Something.
So, until then,
Something.
yeah. Until then, my name is Max.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Larry.
Thanks for watching, guys. You'll hear us later.